Relying on others. Should you or should you not? This question a lot of people ask quite a bit, and you might feel yourself in this precarious position where being dependent on somebody may be incredibly important, and sometimes people have let you down. And I'm here to at least let you know that this is not a black and white question. And I think a little more context on what I'm saying, relying on somebody and depending on somebody does not mean a self-destructive desperation to be accepted. Relying is to have confidence in something. You must rely on staying in bed to make you feel better and relying on your friends to tell you everything that you miss when you are sick. So this is in the context if you were ill and you realize that I am exhausted, I need sleep, you rely on your body to tell you this information, and you rely on friends to tell you if you've missed anything at school or at work while you were sick so you don't fall behind. Relying is a lot like the word depending, and I will be using these interchangeably, but I think depending might be a little more of a destructive tendency. If you rely on somebody for help, you also depend on them. But rely is even more powerful. When you rely on someone, you have total faith and trust that they will come through. It also comes from the Latin word of religere, which means to fasten or bind. So when you rely on somebody, you have seen this track record of trust and care, and it's almost like a second nature thing to rely on this person because you've made this connection that they are somebody or it's a place that you trust. You go to a restaurant that you're familiar with not because you depend on it, you rely on it. You rely that the food is going to be safe. You rely that the wait staff is going to be friendly and kind. You rely that the manager is keeping the health and safety guidelines of your particular area to the top notch, and it makes you feel better. When you depend on this, that's when we get into a much different situation, because dependency can be self-destructive, and an over-reliance on these critical factors can really make a lot of decisions that you make inauthentic, very hurtful to yourself and others, and you'll be depressed. I mean, you will honestly be depressed. So some of the symptoms of being over-reliant and, dependent on that over-reliance can be a lot of this. You find yourself doing things for other people you really don't want to. I fell in this position. I drove people around everywhere because I thought I could rely on them. Looking back at it now, I was over-reliant on their acceptance. They called and asked me to do this. It was really out of the way. I didn't want to, but I did it anyway because I'm being a good friend. I was dependent on that attention that I was getting from this person, and that's when we got into an issue. You avoid doing things you like because others might disapprove. I do a lot of work inside of my home. I spend a lot of time inside of my home. This is my choice. And there are people who don't like that. They're like, wow, man, you should go out. You should get a job or an outside job, despite me having a job. You have to go out and do this and do that. I'm like, I don't want to. I've never had that kind of inkling to make decisions other than maybe doing tasks I didn't want to do because of it. I didn't do it. I did not neglect the things that I liked doing because others would disapprove. You constantly seek the advice of other people and become paralyzed with decision making when you can't get advice, or advice you get from different people is contradictory. You get stuck in an endless loop. You don't know what job you should go for. You ask your mom and she says get a job that is salary based and have health insurance, or then you go to a friend who is in a commission based job and they tell you, oh my god, this job is really cool, we're looking right now, you go back to your guardian or mother or whoever, and they say, no, don't do that, and you're getting conflicting answers. And when you have to make that decision, you become paralyzed and don't make any decision at all. That's when it becomes destructive. You ask someone else's permission or opinion before you do or say things. This one is big. If you want to take that online course, it's fine to get some advice, but don't buy it because somebody said to buy it, or don't buy it because somebody said to not buy it. Think critically. Once again, this is all an example. You ask someone, I have some notes and about to read the same one. You aren't yourself around other people. Instead, you behave as you think they would want you to. Exactly. You are happy because your friends are happy, but inside you might be miserable. You make decisions that you wouldn't even want to because your friends want to do it. Your friends want to go to the movies, but you don't want to go to the movies. What about that? That's, surrounding yourself, you aren't yourself around other people. Maybe you wanted to go for a hike, or you wanted to hang out at the house and play video games or whatever you wanted to do, but they all want to see a movie and you don't want to. You often seek reassurance that you're doing the right thing. Nobody else can tell you if something is the right thing. You have to make that decision. When you make a decision, it is the right thing. If you think it's not, it is. Because we'll go into it later. That's a whole other conversation. You demand more of relationships that they can give. If you are friends and they can't help you at that moment, and you get really pissed off at them, and you're like, you have to be here for me, you have to be here for me. And it's like, that is not good. You're demanding more of a friendship than what is expected. You fear being alone, and you are miserable when no others are around. You don't like alone time, and it's horrible. So, in contrast, taking responsibility for the direction of your life is this. This is self-direction, because relying on somebody too much is over-reliance, and it's self-destructive dependency. The opposite of that is self-direction. Choosing your goals and making them your own, and making those decisions yourself, which is huge for people, because they're like, oh, I don't know if my friends or my family will disapprove. Their opinions about if it's the right move is irrelevant. If you think it's the right move, you go for it. You tell them what's happening, and you really hope that you kind of get yourself into this mindset that you have to do this. And if they're real friends, they'll support you. Say, hey, I wouldn't have personally done it, but I'm here for you, and I support you. That's a friend. If a spouse says, you know what, I'm okay with you starting this business. We have plenty of money. The kids are fine. I will let you do this. You have my full support. Let me know if you need anything. Boom, put a ring on that. Do whatever you need to do. Family, in the same thing. It's like if your family will support you. They will. And if they don't, honestly, cut them out. Boom. And I know it's easier said than done. I've done it many of times, and it's the best feeling in the world. We'll get into, like I said, we'll get into a lot of those concepts later. Actively pursuing your goals rather than waiting and dreaming. You make the choice, you start doing it. You make your actions, you start pursuing that goal. End sight first, you learn along the way. Remember, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. Don't think about the journey, think about the destination. Choosing to work at managing stress, developing your potential, and changing things you dislike rather than drifting along and expecting a miracle to occur. Yes, you have to understand what triggers your stress, what helps you relax, and get back at it. It's a hard, perilous journey to reach your goals. I saw this quote today, and I thought it was really, really great. A decision that's uncomfortable now, I think it's something like this. A decision that's uncomfortable now can lead to an amazing opportunity later. And I was like, wow, that's really, something you are there. And, developing your potential, know who you are, let's do that. And changing things you dislike, cut people out, don't do this thing anymore, that kind of stuff. If you feel like you've been treading water on it, don't do it anymore. And rather than drifting along and expecting a miracle to occur, when you work for it, if you work for your dreams will work for you. And not condemning any person, including yourself, when things go wrong in your life, even though you or someone else may be responsible, but rather identifying any causes and looking for solutions. Do not blame yourself for bumps in the road. Do not blame anybody else for bumps in the road, even if they are responsible. Even if you're responsible, it's the journey. The journey is the thing, and there's going to be bumps. It's not going to be smooth sailing all the way through. It's never happened, and it will never happen. And if you have that expectation, then get rid of it, because that does not happen. Self-direction is not open opposition or non-cooperation with others. I'm not saying that. It does not mean that. You keep your self-direction on the right track by balancing it with other principles such as enlightened self-interest, long-range enjoyment, moderation, and flexibility. Take advice. Understand people. Maybe your goal will change 2 or 3 years down the line. You never know, but it's about the journey, because when you make the decision to reach that goal, that may not be your goal at the end of the day. So how to dependency? Avoid giving away responsibility for your happiness. If you have a child, don't abandon it because sometimes it brings you not joy. Don't quit your job, because number one, we still have to make money to live in this world, and you have to be somewhat responsible. The responsibilities still come first, but side hustle, man. Practice being there for yourself more often. And what I personally love to do, I used to be terrified about doing this because I did have an over-reliance on people at one point, and I love doing this. I take one day out of the week, and usually it's Friday because, for the most part with my work, I get a lot of it done. I have me time. I do things that I want to do, even if it's by myself. Before COVID hit, I would go to the casino by myself. Obviously, if you're a female or somebody who may not be comfortable, don't do that. And be responsible there, obviously. Don't go crazy. And if you feel like going to a casino would be bad, don't go. Go for a hike by yourself. Go to the movies by yourself. Go get a pedicure and manicure. Stuff that makes you happy and calm. One day, boom. One day is all you. And talk to your spouse, talk to your loved one about this. Hey, I've been stressed out over the past couple of days, and I want to try this for a couple of weeks. Even if it's a couple of weeks and you don't like it, talk to them. Don't just start without knowing them, because then they're like, wait, what's going on? Are they mad at me? Say, hey, on Friday, you can communicate with me, but you're on your own for a lot of maybe responsibilities outside. Obviously, taking care of your children is one thing. Going to your job is one thing. But it's like, expectation of cooking dinner or something. Oh, no, that's on you. Or breakfast. Oh, no, that's on you. If your children are more than capable to make their own food, I taught you how to do this. I'm going to take a me day. Go ahead and do that. I personally schedule my me days. But if you don't want to, if it's like, hey, there's a lot going on, maybe I'll take a me day today. Go ahead and do that. It's really important to look into yourself and find some hobbies that you may not have even thought of. Really get to know your vulnerable self. Don't put yourself in a compromising position where you might get hurt or killed, but understand that there are emotional vulnerabilities. Maybe you have to face the fears of why you're super over-reliant on others, and make yourself vulnerable and really have this stern conversation with yourself. Make yourself helpless in a comfortable environment. Describe your needs, desires, frustrations, your hurt, your sadness, shame, despair, stressful irritations, anger, whatever it is. Put it on paper. Talk to somebody about it. I recommend going to a counselor, especially for something like this, because it's a nice, comfortable environment. Please do so. So, at the end of the day, what is the answer to the question, should I rely on others? Yes and no. Rely on others for things that they can control, but do not be over-reliant on them. I hope you all had a wonderful experience listening to me. If you did, remember to like this channel, subscribe, check out the description for some neat little stuff, and put it down below in the comments. You know, what is something that you've relied on friends on that you regret, or what did you do for your me day? I want to hear it. So thank you all for listening. Have a wonderful rest of your day.